Yeah. You can start the recording.
Julio, it's been a minute.
Nice to see you.
Hey man, how you doing?
Oh, well,
I am Barcelona. What's up?
Oh, wow.
Barcelona. Yeah, I was just in Montreal.
Well, you're
and now I'm
back?
in DC. Yeah.
You're in DC. Okay.
Juan, where are you calling from?
Me, I am from Colombia.
Okay. And you're there now?
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Man, like today I was thinking that we actually met, me and Juan, a lot of years ago at the beginning of my career in crypto, in token engineering commons and that kind of initial group. And you were doing very cool stuff. And then I don't know what happened, but for years we didn't engage. And I was thinking about why. And I don't know the answer, but I'm glad to be here because I think you are doing great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, for me, it's really great to see some people whom I met years ago and show them how things have been like going and how we've been growing from the initial idea to the project that we have right now. Okay, I'm going to share something.
Yeah, totally. It's fun also because I had a lot of conflicts this year in the community and in work and in life, and I never thought about contacting the conflict resolution guild, which is funny. Now I'm thinking about why didn't I do it, but
Yeah, I mean, we all have had a lot of conflicts in our lives lately. Like there's a lot of conflict in the world, there's a lot of conflict in the air, there's a lot of pressure um, from the market. So that's mostly what I wanted to speak about today. I didn't want to make like a presentation on theory because we already have a lot of educational content out there. So I will share some content, but I won't really like to dive into the features and more into the benefits. That's something that I am trying to improve when I am presenting, and it's that sometimes I get too much into the weeds of my own mind, and I need to make it easier for people to understand. So yeah, I want to say hello to everyone, and here we have Durgadas and Bianca, who are also contributors to gravitydao, and it's really a pleasure to have you guys wanting to listen to me and also feeling the support from the people I work with. As I was sharing before, we have a lot of content. The project that we are working on is called gravitydao, and we have been focusing on creating education on conflict management and trust creation for DAOs. This project was born in the Token Engineering Commons because the Token Engineering Commons was trying to reproduce Ostrom's principles in its design, and three of Ostrom's principles talk about conflict management, from graduated sanctions to mutual monitoring to easy to access conflict resolution mechanisms. So basically, the understanding of conflict management and conflict transformation is like a transversal skill for individuals and organizations, because we as individuals have conflict, and in groups we have conflict, and in organizations we have conflict. So it's normal to have that conflict, but we also need to be prepared to deal with it. And it's never easy. So yes, like DAOs somehow sometimes want to be successful within an utopic idea, and they then crash flat into the earth. And that's why um, not only DAOs, but commons and public goods benefit from having conflict management, because when you don't have conflict management, either processes in the organization or capabilities individually, then things will just like burn on fire. Everyone will start running from one side to another. They will not know how to proceed. And something that people think when we come to speak about these topics is like, oh, that guy doesn't have conflict. We all have conflict. I have a lot of conflict in my life. We experience conflict in our organization, and by the fact that we know about the theory doesn't mean that the practice is not going to be hard. And at the same time, sometimes when people is too much into the weeds, even when two of them or three of them are mediators, sometimes you also need a third person to mediate, because you when you are involved in a conflict, you cannot like step aside and become your own third side. When you are in a conflict, you are biased. And that's why, even the same as doctors, they need other doctors. Conflict managers also need support. They need support in mediation, if things are not flowing with communication, or also from therapy and mental health, if the things that you're living inside of you are also affecting your capacity to relate outside of you and with others. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any question, any firing question? I am an open book. We have a lot of content, so if you have any question, maybe we would have a graphic made by Durgadas for that, or we can have like a lesson in our online training. Or if not, I will be just happy to say that I don't know, or just to share my feelings around that. Yeah, I want to open this space for anything that can come from the curiosity that brought you all here. Okay, so I will start then talking about multiple things, and please stop me whenever you want to hear something different. I would also like to hear another voice, but yeah, it's very interesting to have you all here. And for example, something that we've noticed is that DAOs are not very good at managing conflict. There are many reasons for that. Some of those reasons are because of working like preferences and working styles. Some people work with one style, and then other people work with other style, and and it's difficult, because sometimes we want to impose one working style over the other, and that's hard. um, and like in DAOs, we need to take collective decisions, but sometimes if we take every decision as a collective decision, things will move slow, and everything will become polarizing, and everyone will be doing everything. And at the same time, it's good if we have a specialization where we can have like groups of people dealing with issues. And for example, something that I've seen a lot in DAOs is that they tend to take decisions regarding conflict through token voting. And that's a practice that at least I, from an external observator, I think it's not like the best way to manage a conflict, because eventually you just end up putting everything to the public and putting a lot of people without the right context to take a decision in that. So something that from Gravity we've been trying to propose to big communities is that within their own internal processes, they should have, and within their own internal contributors, they should have processes and people that are capable of dealing with the conflict. People that can like meet with the parties, and people that can like raise information and process through the noise, because when the conflicts are taken to a forum, everyone feels like an expert and everyone has their own judgment, but that doesn't make it easier to analyze the information. That only creates like more subjectivity and more polarization. So something that we like to talk about in Gravity is that we encourage the capacities to be able to solve their conflicts, the conflicts that they create effectively. So instead of having everyone voting if someone did something good or wrong, we try to propose having a group of people that can deliberate on those things, and that they can act on behalf of the community, so that also the external perception of the community is not like, hey, everything that they're voting on is on conflicts, but that the votes that are using token governance are related to the things that the protocol wants to put out there, and not like airing their dirty laundry. And the fact that we are not text speakers, native text speakers, also make it harder to understand. Like sometimes when we read and when we write something, we can read it differently or write it differently than what we wanted to express. And that creates even more confusion and more difficulty to overcome conflicts. So what we try to talk about is to have like a human touch to that, where we try to facilitate communication. And as I say, theory is easier than practice, because sometimes, and I need to improve on that, is that I write and I hit enter, and it's something that we all have to be mindful of. Okay, I write something, if I am heated or something, it's better for me to read it 10 times, drink a glass of water, go on in a walk, and then review what you want to send, instead of sending it right at the moment, because that can be very, very like triggering, and that can be very like putting gas into a fire, and then it even turns against you, because it makes it harder to understand what you want to say. You're not being efficient with your communication, and at the same time, you are then adding another layer of complexity, and like being led by emotions. So it's like I think that conflict management is a very integral thing that that covers many social sciences, because we can relate conflict management to the politics, we can relate conflict management to governance and informed decision taking, we can relate conflict management to our own mental health, we can relate conflict management to the way we trust others, and also conflict management even as how we lead. That's another of the topics that we're diving right now in gravitydao, diving into, and it's the topic of leadership. And we find that trust creation and leadership are like light and shadow, because when you successfully work on trust, you're able to prevent conflict. And once you had conflict, then you need to rebuild trust. But that the boundary in between trust creation and conflict management needs leadership. Because if you don't have good leadership, you will not be able to translate the trust that you are trying to build into the prevention or the management of the conflicts that arise. And if you don't have leadership in conflict management, you also will not be able to transform the outcomes of a conflict into nurturing opportunities for growth. So yeah, that's like the third aspect that we have been diving into lately, and we hope to launch a course on leadership for DAOs, maybe by the end or the start of next year. And we are reading books, we are studying between us all, and we are also living the experience to be able to talk about this. Because for example, Julio is here and he knows where this idea came from, and that really there are projects that have been like endorsed many times, or that have had like support from other organizations into their structuring. But this project of Gravity DAO has been a very uh, like like small project that we have been trying to formalize, and that against all odds we've been able to remain alive. Because normally the space for socially oriented projects is less than the space for technically oriented projects in Web3. But we've managed to survive and to continue growing, and that's a hard experience, because that's also like we started noticing this topic of leadership, because we were also struggling with our own leadership. Like, okay, how do we grow from a small DAO that maybe was in a survival mode and that didn't need too much formality into a DAO that can receive more contributors, and into a DAO that can sustain itself with its treasury? And how can we lead between our people, and how can we embrace creativity but at the same time deliver on things? And it's like, I am sure you all can relate to this. It's these dynamics that are really hard, that sometimes you want to deliver, you want to push. Sometimes you think that you need to take the foot off from the accelerator. But also as a leader, sometimes you have to put people uncomfortable, and take decisions that are not going to please everyone. And that's the hard side of leadership, the hard side of conflict management too. Also, to manage a conflict, you require leadership, because leadership eventually is to say, okay, this conflict stops here, and this is the transformation of that conflict, but that needs a leadership. And if you don't have leadership on conflict management, you can easily avoid things. And yeah, I would like to open again the space if there's any question, or I can continue just like sharing many things.
Hey man, I have some points. I'm just in front of the Sagrada Familia, so maybe it's a bit noisy. But thank you for your introduction. I think it was very good. And I have some. I'm glad that you touched the connection between conflict management and leadership, because that's the side of it that I've been living lately. And I noticed that like there is some feedback loop, like negative feedback loops when you're in a position of leadership with conflicts, because like you attract them a lot because you have to take a lot of important decisions, but also you are in a position which is very not in a space of not availability to solve these conflicts, because maybe you are too busy managing things, especially if you're not like a balanced leader or I don't know, if you have problems in your life in general. So if you can comment more on that, it would be good. I mean, what leaders should know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this conjunction? Because you can take it from many angles. What do you think?
Yeah, it's beautiful because the title of the meeting was Intro to Conflict Management, and maybe it's a topic that we have so much content on that somehow the fact of introducing leadership creates some curiosity. So yeah, it's interesting. I can happily share about that, and it's that yes, like leadership has its dark side too. Everything has its light and its dark side, and sometimes like being a leader is also a position of a conflict manager, because you have to take into account the feelings of a group. You have to also try to put people uncomfortable, so that they can also push themselves to improve. And yeah, taking decisions is hard. And like yeah, we have this dichotomy between DAOs taking decisions, collective decisions for everything, and like that somehow needs to have like a clear boundary, because if we are taking decisions for everything, then we are not getting specialized, and specialization helps to improve productivity. So somehow there needs to be leadership to have a specialization, and some people and to have some people saying, yeah, I took this decision because I don't know, the deadline to apply was later today, and if I waited for the whole group to take a decision, maybe we wouldn't even meet the deadline. So yeah, it's hard because when you are leading, also you are trying to build a shared goal, to build towards a shared goal within a team, but everyone has also their own internal goals and their own desires. So maybe a leader thinks that what they think is what should be done in the team, and the other people in the team feels differently. So
Can I mention something about this?
yeah, just let me finish. That's why it's so hard, but also so important to have everyone on the same page. Yeah, please go there with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that it's important to have your own support network as a leader, to make sure that you're following your own internal clock. And for me, and the kind of thing that we do here at Gravity in the graphics, the job of the leader is really, there's a certain moderation, there's a certain amount of facilitation, there's a certain amount of allowing or helping to create sort of curated material, or sort of the main body of what you're doing, but also to enable other people to engage with the topic, right? So there's certain skills around that. You need to, create safety for people when you're proposing something. You also need to allow them to express what's alive in themselves, as a part of that. And Mon, if you have that pink graphic up, which I don't currently have up now, but that kind of outlines, I think it's draft 7 of that one, if you can find it. Maybe you can share your screen or something, but basically I have this graphic that I created that talks about how we interact. And it's basically a circular thing where you propose something like, hey, let's get together in a DAO and do conflict management. And then we all have to have some kind of informed consent, and we all have to come with our own ideas about what we're doing inside of this thing. And then we all kind of have to agree to some degree in the informed consent period of what's going on. And that should hopefully create safety. And if you're, I'm just sort of describing our internal process here, but I broke it down in such a way, and that this pink graphic I'm breaking down right now, and as I'm gradually creating the other graphics for the leadership course. And what you can see there is kind of a huge responsibility. You have to be able to hold together, creating safety and all of that, while also kind of enabling other people to engage and put their stuff in. And it takes quite a lot of support for yourself as a leader because there are a lot of unique situations, and there's a lot of contradictions and paradoxes you have to live with as a leader. And I think it's a good idea generally to work with people who have a sense of what that means, because often when you're talking about, that's a great article. I was so leadership could then also, part of the criteria that I have is sort of maintaining curiosity. When you drop curiosity for what's going on, then you stop being able to enable people on the right hand side of the picture. I'll see if I can find this document real quick. And
I will share that graphic with the team, with the audience.
But yeah, for me, the point is that, a huge amount of our job as leaders is to remain in curiosity, right? And once you stop doing that, then you just start seeing far too much of yourself. And there's a tendency when you're just looking in the mirror all the time to get out of this sort of humble position, right? And so when you're talking about different kinds of leadership structures, like servant leadership, for example, humility is a huge part of that. And so, I kind of broke it down in this graphic, but I'm not currently in a position where I can show that right now. Otherwise, I would walk you through it a little bit. But in any case, I just wanted to add that part of it. But once you actually get where you've come across the top of this graphic, where you've created safety and figured out what's alive in everybody, then you can make discoveries, hopefully, from that. And then you can do some sense making around that. Then you can do some lessons, and then you can say, okay, what are we going to do in terms of iterating our way back in the other direction? And for me, leadership is all about, so if you look at our offering, which is sort of 3 pieces, the trust creation and conflict management, and then leadership is basically the glue that holds all that together, right? And so you have to be able to flexibly and appropriately adapt from one side of that picture to the other. Yeah, so that's great. So and what you'll notice is that you're going to have a certain amount of comfort about working with one of the 3 main aspects of this, right? There's also kind of a directionality to all of this, which is to say you might be really a lot more comfortable on the stability tradition side of that picture, right? So that would typically make you more comfortable on the curation side of the picture. Like, here's what we've always done, and so on. But if you're going to actually create new things, right, when things do need to change, you have to be able to work your way across the top of this. And the question is, are you going to do that in a bounded way, which is to say, all we need is people that participate and iterate, because everything about this is known, right? Or you're going to do it in a co-creation fashion. So you can do this entire circular or square sort of process. It should be repeated over and over. Hopefully, your leadership, your ability to moderate, your ability to facilitate will improve while still being able to hold this unique point of view or mission, and allow for the entirety of things to kind of move around and through you. So that's my kind of general description of this. So when I talk to people about this narrative, often what I'll do is I'll say, are you more comfortable along the top or on the right side or on the bottom or along the left side? And these kinds of things often will reveal certain aspects of your own leadership comfortability and sometimes even how you follow or participate as you're being led. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions about this that you like, but this is going to be the cornerstone of, I'm going to break all of this out into a much more easy to understand graphic and try to deal with things like polarity mapping and other tools that we use to suss out the potential benefits and appropriate responses to different challenges.
I want to say something, and it's that yeah, like sometimes we want to lead, but we don't want to follow, and it's as important to know how to follow than to know as to know how to lead. I was also sharing before this the Dark Side of Leadership article, because yeah, I mean, when you put yourself in a leadership position, you also have to struggle with your own ego, and like sometimes we think that being a leader is being the only one that speaks, and like I create the space, but I feel all the space myself, and also like the role of the leader and the moderator is to create the space for other people to jump in, and that's something that we sometimes forget, that we are not going to be here all the time, and we need mentorship and rotation, and that leading is hard. Leading is hard, and there's a dark side of leading, like even doxing yourself, putting yourself as a visible face where if you have an enemy, then you will be targeted. And like the fact that we are so dynamic that even the best leader can be a toxic leader sometimes. And yeah, like sometimes
Speaking of following, though, I just wanted to point out that I put that link in there. It's a really cool little link about what the first follower does. Transforms a lone nut into a leader. So it's interesting just to look at that. So sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. From some of the takeaways of this Dark Side of Leadership article, like leaders are human beings, and human beings have both a dark and a light side, and like big leaders in history, they also have their detractors. And like sometimes the biggest leaders in history have been leaders that have created a lot of pain in the world, because for example the presidents of the countries, they are leaders, and they are the ones that also take decisions around the war in countries. So and acknowledging that this dark side of leadership exists doesn't imply that this dark leadership behavior are acceptable, but it's also something that it's not like we are or we are not. It's always this dynamic where you can be a good leader and inspire people sometimes, but also in some other context or in some other time or in some other situation, you can be a leader that can be authoritarian, or that can like close the space for alternative voices. And I think that the leader has to have skills in balancing things, because sometimes it's time to divert, and there's a lot of things that can come into the bag, and that's the moment where we're brainstorming. But also there are some times that you need to take off some of the things that were initially included, and like and like convert into something. So I will go back to presenting Durgada's thing, Durgada's graphic about this moderation and cross pollination. And it's that the leader has to also know how to go through all of the steps, because sometimes we're good, and this is also related to what Durgas was mentioning, of like, okay, where do you feel more comfortable? Because sometimes we are happy making a curation, and like when we are making a curation, it's beautiful because everyone is like, okay, let's bring all of the ideas to the table. But then when you are moderating, when you jump to moderating, you are now like, okay, um now there are too many things, we need to make something out of this. And then to cross pollinate, you also need to allow for that space to be, that you created, to be also space for others and for generative discussions. But then when you start like iterating and evolving, then from that cross pollination, there needs to be also again a curation phase where some things are going to be taken out and some other things are going to be included. And for example, for me, I find it really, really hard, this evolution step. Like, I think I am good at making a curation, but like when it comes to filtering and saying, okay, this works and this doesn't work, and we need to evolve, and we need to take all of our pretty ideas and all of our cool ideas and make them into actionable things. It's hard. It's hard because if it's hard for you individually to go through all these steps, imagine how hard it is to go through all these steps with a group. There's people that will attach to some of the ideas that will not be included within the iteration or the evolution, and then they may feel excluded, or they may feel uncomfortable. And it's really a balance between how uncomfortable can we be and how comfortable can we be. Because if we are in a comfort zone all the time, then we are not like pushing ourselves. If we are all the time outside of our comfort zone, it's going to be too much. So it's like a balance of, okay, I made a comfort zone, I am good at doing this now. um, Even when people is trusting me, there's also this aspect of verification, trust and verify. So if you said that you're going to do something, it's like, okay, it's easier when you have the idea of I want to do something, but when you actually have to deliver it, in that push, you have to assume leadership and take decisions that maybe are not going to be supported by everyone, but it's at the same time like your way of pushing, or helping for things to go as you maybe had them in your mind. Maybe you are wrong, but initially, like, we trust our gut. So if there's something that is alive in you, and you can and you feel that you have to like stand on your ground, it's also a question of leadership, because everyone is going to say, hey, I didn't like what you said there, or hey, I think that could be improved. There's always margin for improvement. we somehow become perfectionists, and I think that looking for perfection is also not being so practical, and sometimes we spend more time going from 80 to 100 than having an 80. So we also struggle with our own leadership of, oh, I need to do something perfect this time, or I need to succeed, or else I will failure. And like success and failure are two very like the dichotomies that can have a lot of gap in between, and like they are very subjective. So yeah, I was rambling a lot, but
in
it's
terms of
to
in
the
terms of introducing the gravity DAO thing, I think the first aspect of the course was based on materials that and some talks that I had given about decolonization and some other stuff too. And so I can provide links to some of those things if you like. I think they're linked already in the course, but so yeah, the whole idea behind what Juan's saying now is that colonization is fundamentally decontextualized, and so, you know, marrying together the two halves of our basic approach to things, you know, which is basically we're trying to get people to understand that the trust creation portion is more important than conflict management, and by being proactive you can deal with that. But who's going to do that, right? It has to be a leader. It has to be someone who feels empowered to lead. And then the thing is also is that as soon as we get together, conflicts come, you know. So right now in this group, as we're talking, some people are going, oh, that guy, and you know, whatever. I mean, it's whenever we all get together, it's just happened. So one of the main things that we have emphasized and what we came from was the token engineering commons. And so our general approach to things is about the commons. And so Ostrom's principles solve some of those issues, and at our core, a lot of the things that we're talking about are related to the commons and Ostrom's principles, and everything on either side of that really is just things we've realized along the way. And then as soon as now we're getting together, we're going to encounter shadow. It's going to be shadow leadership. It's going to be the shadow of the participants. It's going to be the shadow of the systems that we've created that forgot something, or were somehow developed in a way that wasn't as human as we probably could make it. And so we have to allow for having space for all of that. That's another, not only a leadership role, but something that we need to kind of handle. And then what we really at the end of the 4-part process that I think we've outlined with the components that we've produced is a lot of these formal, you know, ADR mechanisms and legal frameworks and things that exist when we really failed to create trust, failed to properly lead, or failed to create systems, you know. So part of our offering in terms of that is just to make sure that we are keeping all of these things together. And so yeah, conflict transformation is certainly a part of it. Part of the thing that you're supposed to get out of the conflict transformation should then go back into the complexity of trying to work together in DAOs, especially in the meta modern way that we're trying to approach things. And so yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to read about you know, the dark side of leadership in the meta modern time, all you really have to do is look at somebody like Steve Bannon, you know, who is definitely a meta modern person, but he's leveraging that, you know, meta modern approach in a very dark way. So there are a lot of good examples of this kind of stuff, but the point is to go around the process where you realize things are really complex and that people need developmental arcs, and then we're going to get together. Conflicts are going to happen. There are going to need to be some leadership both to accept that those things happen and to lead us out of them. And so we have two offerings that, you know, allow people to make that approach, but also to learn from the going around of that circle through through a lot of the other mechanisms that we have in place. And it's really just fundamentally all of it is down to education and creating a culture and being really determined about what you're gonna do. So I hope that helps.
I want to make space again for other voices, because like that's also the way that I can practice my own moderation and my own leadership in this talk. And it's that the fact that I am here, it is not that I am like the one or together with Durgadas the only ones that should be talking. I want to empower yourself to also speak whatever is alive in you, because there are no wrong comments right now. And yeah, I like that Exeunt raised his hand, because that's the way that, okay, we made this space, but this space is for you. It's not for me. Like and yeah, I don't want to step in the middle, and I want to be able to open the space for contribution. So yeah, please, Exeunt, you have the mic.
Hey, there's actually a rainstorm here. I hope it's not clouding it out too much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you guys are like hitting on some like dead-on stuff that have come up in sort of ethereal forest context and PDX DAO context. I want to bring up, I was actually trying to Google this talk. I don't remember where I saw it, but all I could find, the talk is called "Where Have All the Leaders Gone?" And all I could find was something from the CEO of Chrysler from 2005, which is surely means it in a very different way than what I meant. But the talk was about the history of movements, and you know, let's take the 1960s. You have leaders like Martin Luther King. Black Panther Party had some really prominent leaders. You had various like leaders of the counterculture, Abbie Hoffman, whatever, Allen Ginsberg. There was a as things move forward, the talk was pointing out, you see this transformation. I actually think Subcomandante Marcos in 1994 sort of may represent a threshold point for this, where he comes out as a leader, but obviously comes out wearing a mask. His identity was revealed, I think, maybe 5 or 10 years later, but it didn't matter at that point. You know, I mean, the persona that he had developed was tailored around a sort of lack of reference to his own ego or his own charismatic personality, or complex negotiation with it in some way. But when you look at Black Lives Matter, when you look at Occupy, when you look at Bitcoin, these are completely leaderless movements. You know, Bitcoin obviously in a complicated way. I think that you know, I'm very sympathetic to that direction. But I think what's being talked, and I sort of wanted to just mention it because I think it's, you know, interesting that you know, the argument is that these groups saw the threat of basically assassination, co-optation, imprisonment are the three major poles of sort of what happens to a major leader in a social movement. So it's a tactic to sort of be headless and anonymous. But what we're talking about is a little bit different. I mean, we're talking about representational movements, but here in this context, we're talking more about more practical, immediate contexts that have more prefigurative ends rather than representational ends. And so I just wonder, I think that there's some interesting ways that the nature of DAOs allow for a sort of permissive leadership that has a practical hierarchy, but not an ontological hierarchy. in other words, there's a constant diminishment and a constant reminder that that moment of leadership is done under a moment of or is done in an environment of a principally egalitarian environment. I also think about sadomasochism, which I've been writing and talking about a lot recently, which is a sort of weird vertical egalitarianism, right? Where there's completely egalitarian ontological foundations that are taken into like experimental, consensual, vertical directions. But in any case, I guess I just wanted to give an open question about like what we've seen the movements develop this tactic of leaderlessness, and yet we know that as like practitioners, that leadership is an extremely leadership models are like extremely practical. It's sort of like in the same way that open source was arrived at as a practical wisdom rather than a value in like the coding space. Like there being a leader, like that's what something any the necessity for a leader on a team is something that any engineer or any sort of craftsman understands. So I just sort of wanted to open up about that tension between this movement, fearlessness, but also this sort of necessity in some cases.
I have a graphic that addresses this exact thing, which is, I have it open here. If you don't mind, Juan, I'll share it with you.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, you shared that with me. I will also give my 2 cents. And I shared this article on Wikipedia that talks about the tyranny of structurelessness. And yeah, the tyranny of structurelessness refers to an essay that originated from a feminist group, and they were mentioning that they tried to have leaderless structure, but at the same time that also creates structurelessness, because the leaders somehow are the ones that hold these two polarities. So I don't know if Durgadas was going to send me something, and I will address that to see if he comes back. But yeah, the idea is that sometimes these ideas of leaderlessness, it's also a little bit utopic, because we need also to be very practical. And like when you don't have a leader, then everyone goes or wants to go to their own direction, and we have yeah, we need some kind of a structure. And Durgadas, if you want, please share with me the graphic, and I can share the screen, because that's what I wanted to say. That yes, the idea is not to go to strictly horizontal structures, but to find a balance between where we can hold the space and keep it together, and have some people that can be intentional about it, and at the same time for that people to intentionally decentralize and make space for decentralized power, and make space for others.
Hey guys, I just have a quick question for gravitydao members, or yeah, the two that you are presenting. Are you familiar with the work of Rodrigo Núñez and the book Neither Vertical Nor Horizontal?
No.
Okay, because that's I think that's very relevant and related to what we are discussing here. He advocates for using intentionally both organizational forms, like vertical structures and horizontal structures, like movements and DAOs and so on. And he talks about situational leadership, because there are like contexts in which you need a leader or more leadership or less leadership. And self-organization, in his opinion, doesn't exist. It's always like organization. And yeah, I just wanted to share if it was not known, because you think it's very relevant. It's like it's like an historical study of the leftist ideologies on organization in the last centuries. And he does some abstraction, and he proposed a model, but yeah, I can share in the chat. We also did a summary of the book, because the book is very complex and academic, and fucking academics, I hate them. Yeah, so we wrote a summary of it. We will share both. And yeah, we just want to throw an input. I'm curious to know if there is some inputs from people that didn't speak in terms of key materials that have been very relevant in your background in this sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we are exploring books. A book that we read was Deliberately Developmental Organizations, and they spoke also about the importance of bringing what is hidden to the consciousness. So we hide a lot, and I like this suggestion of a new book, because yeah, I came here trying to talk about something, but I go out also with something that brings my curiosity, and a topic that I can continue studying. So we have been reading that deliberately developmental organizations. Now we want to lead also the regenerative leadership, and this also book of neither vertical or horizontal is like great to continue building our base of frameworks. We try to be a framework that hosts and develops many other frameworks. So yeah, we like to receive new frameworks, to add them to our framework. And I see Durgadas that he jumped in again. So
Yeah, sorry about that. I wonder if I can share my screen now. So this was talking about what you were asking about. So so there's this basic idea that the culture that we come from outside of Web3, and also this is the challenge of being in Web3, is to understand that this step one is kind of the dystopia, right? It's the modern reality where we have all of these different, problems. And I think what a lot of people do is they want to get into a DAO, but they often skip the middle steps, right? So understanding how to re-educate yourself. And part of the problem with that, talking about leaders, is that there's a lot of people who don't know how to participate in a semi-centralized bureaucracy. And if they do, the only way they know how to do that is according to the rules of step one, which is not great. So part of the thing that we have to do as leaders is unlearn and sort of decolonize or extractify ourselves from the previous way of dealing with everything. And so we have to basically be accountable ourselves to these same things, and grow and learn and change along with that. And the origin of this, talking about, so the original version of this document, draft one of this document, was this sort of criticism of crypto economics DAOs, which is, are you a crypto economics DAO at all? And when I look at the narrative view on what Bitcoin did, this is Bitcoin being the first DAO really, and implies all other DAOs, and implies Ethereum, and then the creation of all the other stuff, is Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these things are parallel systems that have grown up to work against the extractive step one, the abusive step one, the exclusion, narcissism, and violence of this step one, which is our current modern dystopia, right? So for me, when I break down the mandate of what Bitcoin is doing, what I see is the technology is what most people think about and talk about and use. But from my perspective, there are two other aspects. And this actually gives the rest of DAOs and everything in people who are sort of social justice oriented, or oriented toward more human step 2 kind of ways of doing things, is that you have to know that in order to create the technology that was created, there had to be this deep practical philosophy, and there also had to be this incredible amount of humility, right? So here, Bitcoin has done all these things, and clearly this person obviously doesn't need a lot of money because they've created this world-changing, parallel system. And so for me, when I'm evaluating what a DAO is, I was thinking that there is this sort of crucial analog to the mandate that I see within the creation of cryptocurrency to start with. And you can actually take a look at the history of other kinds of digital currencies and see that, as soon as they started doing $1 billion in transactions, the eCash group that had 4 people at the top, suddenly they started having all these scandals around them and so on, right? You can cut the head off of a thing. And what I found is that this kind of escapism, like I want to escape out of this dystopia, I want to get into a utopia, but that utopia is often just a fantasy because you haven't really done all of the difficult work in the middle. And that if you don't do the difficult work in the middle, you don't get these sort of extra downhill momentum that you need to escape the self-reinforcing utopia and fantasy that will inevitably benefit just a small number of people in the DAO. We see this all the time in different DAOs. People who are in first, get a lot of the benefits from that, and people who are in the management or the leadership side of it, they get also an inordinate amount of things. But that really kind of tends to reinforce this. And most DAOs are created with a really small, narrowly focused number of things that they think is the solution to everything out of step 2. And instead of doing all of the things, they just do a limited number of those things. And so for me, the DAO is actually on the other side of this kind of step 2 mountain, in the sense that that you really have to do quite a lot of work, and it's quite a task in terms of leadership to escape this thing to where you get into the deliberately developmental thing. So you can have a system and also care for the participants in the system without breaking either side of us. And so I hope that might speak to some degree to the thing that you were talking about. And this is all based in conflicts that we've either moderated or observed, ourselves. And our basic job is to try to not be in the utopian fantasy and not be in the dystopian reality, but to exist in between those two things and let people know that there is in fact a group of people who are thinking about these step 2 and step 4 aspects that could actually help people to sort of escape the circular self-reinforcing setup that we often fall into with DAOs. So I'd be interested in the feedback from you here about that. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only want to say that we are a little bit over the top of the hour. So if you want to stay, or if you want to say anything quick, we can wrap up. And yeah, thanks for the people that created the space and for the people that stood until now. Please, Jennifer.
Hey, I work in the kitchen, and we have a lot of sous chefs, and some of them are newer than others, and you can definitely tell the whole attitude based on the chefs. Like one of the sous chefs actually ended up throwing. I got out of his kitchen because he was just being horrible, and they let me out because they like me. And he ended up throwing a Lexan, which is a big rectangular plastic bin, at somebody. I was not in the kitchen when it happened, so he got moved back into a cafe where he was under better supervision. And that's a really bad example. And I tried to give him all the grace I could, but he was just a dork. But then there's another woman who's like very assertive, and she just became a sous chef, and she's kind of over flexing, but she's also I give her grace, and she has been on my side, you know. So I would just say, and I've definitely learned this from Gravity. Thank you, Juan, and everybody else, and Durgadas and et al. That giving people grace is the way to go, and it's not even like taking the higher road or eating dirt or whatever, you know. Like if you can't stand the situation, definitely do your best to get out of it if there's no resolution available. But it's hard to be a leader, you know. And I'm after well over a year in this kitchen, I'm finally willing to be put on a chef track, you know. Like, I produce well on the food side, but I am concerned about my people skills, and I'm fine as a cog. But when it comes to like telling other people what to do, I come off as bossy. So I've been really working on my nonviolent communication and being able to see the other person's side and not jumping to conclusions, and realizing that what I say now is going to affect the person down the road. You know, like Monday when the new chef I had just walked through the door and she went off on me, and whatever she was yelling at me about was not my fault. It just wasn't. I hadn't done things the way she wanted me to do things. I'd never done them before. It involved like wrapping pans of sandwiches and moving them around in some way, and I thought I'd done it. And I just kept saying, look, I'm not even clocked in yet. I'm not clocked in yet. I'm not clocked in yet. You know, like yell at me after I clock in, and walked out. And because of my status in the kitchen, I was able to do that. I'm blessed to be in a good kitchen. But then she came to me with another sous chef a couple days later and offered me a leadership position.
Well,
You know?
and that particular profession is famous for its toxicity. I mean, so the fact that you're thinking about things, you know, in this different kind of way is a real testament to your character as a person. So, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been work, but this is the friendliest, most inclusive kitchen I've been in. They're pushing for everybody to be bilingual, Spanish and English, because we have so many native Spanish speakers. And the kitchen I'm in, I'm the only native English speaker. So, you know, it's kind of fun. I'm liking it. I'm learning
Right.
Spanish, not very fast. Thank you so much. Thank you, Juan, and thank you, Durgadas, and thank you, everybody else. And I need to step out. I have another meeting to get to.
Yeah, I just wanted to also check in with Accent here because he brought up some stuff that, and my graphic was kind of a response to that. I wanted to see if he saw anything insightful inside of that he'd been talking about. I'm not trying to hold anybody up, but if you're still here, then that would be great to hear. EXEUNT. Yeah, he was the one I was trying to target there. So anyway, yeah, thanks.
Thanks. It was fun. It was fun. It was also, I felt it close. I liked it like that. I like to see some old friends and some new friends. So please reach out, whatever thing you need or that we can support. And yeah, let's catch out later.
Yeah, I'll try to get those documents uploaded so that I can share them with you. I think I've been using ImageGur for that, so I already have one of them in ImageGur, so I'll give a link to that in this call. So let's see here. So this is one of those, and then I have some other graphics in there that are also useful. And I'll try to upload the older one there as well. So let me get a new post going.
Julio, I just DM'd you, and I would be happy to get in touch again. So yeah, great that Durgadas is uploading
Yeah.
the graphics.
Have a good day / evening, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Cheers, y'all.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna end the recording now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I say this in like every context, whether it's like the DAO space or like more local organizing stuff and like farming stuff, is like we know most of what we need to like make the changes, and it's, from my experience, it's always just come down to like people working together. It's, yeah, every single time. And like, I don't know, I guess like I probably should have just kept the recording on, but like a little bit of feedback from me on like, I honestly think just like everything is like not, there's a lot of information, and like I can, as you were saying at the beginning, Juan, like it's easy to like theoretically understand things, but like actually like putting it into practice is, yeah, a whole nother ball game.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what we're involved in now, is trying to take all this theoretical understanding that we have and break it down into bite-sized pieces and present it in things. So we're going to be at DevCon, and we're going to be given
Nice.
a three-hour workshop on leadership, hopefully, if we're accepted. And yeah, so we've got a lot of that stuff going on, and we have a bunch of practical things like the marshmallow challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that. When people have to work together, and so yeah, it's a bunch of pragmatic things that you can do kind of in real life. That and the leadership course that will be coming will be a lot more sort of broken down into practical examples and giving people a chance to work like that. So.
And Regis, you're up in British Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you're able to, but we have a conference in mid-September down here in Portland. It'd be awesome.
Oh.
Some of the energy down. Yeah. I don't know how often you come to
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Portland's a bit of a drive, but for sure, I could try to.
See one.
Yeah, just maybe. Do you have a contact info for me?
Yeah. What do you use Telegram? Thanks, Juan.
I do, just not very much. So I'm on Discord more often.
Okay.
So
yeah, we're about to post the tickets, and like other information and kind of get that all going. I can send that to your Discord or something like that and go into the Discord.
So sure. Are you in our Discord?
I think I jumped in. I'm like rarely on Discord now.
Okay.
I can, when we do that, I'll find you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just send you a link to the Gravity Discord, and then you can find me in there.
Sweet.
I'm all over there.
Awesome.
Okay, well, great. Thanks so much for coming, and it was great to talk to you. And I look forward to talking about what we might talk about as a part of the. I also have this whole building, which which you might see as kind of unique, and I have the same philosophy of building in this building as I did for all of my graphics, and it's all based in neurobiology and hatha yoga and other stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. So there's a kind of connected thread through all this left and right brain, and some ancient yogic wisdom and stuff is all in there. So I think my work is largely based out of yoga to start with, and then as I started looking at it, I can see there's some neurobiology behind it. Ian McGilchrist also does a similar kind of work. He's written some books on the divided mind and the making of the Western world. So yeah, so it might be cool to try to come down to Portland and see if we can't find something that makes sense for your DAO.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah, right on.
Sweet.
So yeah, let's connect. Yeah, maybe you can also email me, durgadas@mac.com, and just let me know, where you are, what's going on, and then we can connect I have Telegram. I just typically don't open it that often because none of the DAOs I'm in are super active in that. So, but yeah, I do have it. So I'll connect with you later on.
Awesome. Sweet.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Peace.